Have you ever wondered how much cash reserves you need to have when you have multiple investment properties? Find out next on REI Talk. Hello, everyone. This is Ruben Glendo. I'm a real estate agent and a real estate investor out of San Antonio, Texas. Today, I wanted to make a short video and talk about the Fannie Mae minimum reserve requirements that is listed on their website. And I think it's extremely important to know because that will be definitely a part of your real estate investing journey if you are financing properties. All right. Well, first of all, let's talk about what is minimum reserve requirements and why is that even a requirement. So minimum reserve requirements, just like it says minimum reserves, which is cash. You have to have cash money or you have to have some other different types of funds, which I'll go over here in just a second, that is required when you start to apply for additional loans. Why is that important or why is that even a requirement? Well, lenders they want to make sure that if something goes wrong, you lose your job or you lose a tenant and you don't have any income coming in, they want to make sure that you have additional cash reserves set aside just in case something goes wrong. And so that's in a nutshell. That's really why it's even there. So now let's talk about what type of accounts or what type of funds are acceptable. So it could be a checking account, it could be a savings account, it could be investment stocks, mutual funds, CDs, money market accounts, anywhere that there is some liquid cash. And again, the key word is liquid cash, cash that you can liquidate, that you can withdraw from these various types of accounts. All right, so now let's talk about what is the minimum required percentages. When it comes to between 1 to 4 properties, you're required to have at least 2% of what you'll see on the website. It's called UPB, or the unpaid balance. Between when you have 5 to 6 properties, then now you're required to have 4% of the unpaid balance. And then properties number 7 through number 10, now you are required to have 6% of the unpaid balances. So as you can see that 1 to 4 properties, it was only 2% that was required. Properties now, when you are between 5 and 6 properties, now it's 4% that's required. And then from property number 7 to property number 10, you're up to now 6% of the unpaid balance. And that can be very, very significant. For example, just to simplify the mathematic calculations, let's say that, and I'm going to get my little calculator here just to make sure that I say this correctly. So let's say you have 3 properties, all right, and you're trying to acquire property number 4. Let's use that as an example. And to simplify things, let's go ahead and say that you have $100,000 of an unpaid balance on all 3 properties. So now you're looking at $300,000 of the unpaid balance. Let's multiply that by 2%. That is a $6,000 figure. So when you go to apply for property number 4, then the lender is going to require for you to have at least $6,000 set aside as cash reserves. Now let's talk about the range between you. Let's say you have 5 properties and you're trying to acquire property number 6. Well, in that case, again, we're going to use, to simplify things, $100,000 balance on each property. So that is a $500,000 balance that you currently have. And now, because you are between 5 and 6 properties, Fannie Mae is going to require you to have 4% of the unpaid balance set aside. You multiply that by 4%, now you are up to $20,000. As you can see, that was a significant increase. It went from $6,000 when we were talking about 3 properties and trying to acquire number 4 to $20,000 when we are talking about having 5 properties trying to acquire property number 6. So as you can see, that was a significant increase of $14,000 cash reserves that you are required to have. Now let's take it up to the next level. Let's say that you have 7 properties, and in those 7 properties, again, you owe $100,000 each. So that is $700,000 balance. Now, because you are now in the range between 7 and 10 properties, now you're going to be required to have 6%. So let's take $700,000 times 6%. You are up to $42,000 of cash reserves that will be required. So there again, a significant increase. When we were talking about having 5 properties going to number 6, you're required to have $20,000 set aside. Now we're talking about having 7 properties, trying to get to property number 8, and now it just jumped up to $42,000. That is a $22,000 increase. So that is extremely important to know as you're going through your real estate investing journey, because you need to be prepared for that. Because when your loan application and gets to the underwriting portion of it, that's when the underwriters are going to start asking these questions. And you're going to have to provide proof that you have the necessary reserves to get the final approval. So now let's go to the website. I'm going to share my screen here. And here we are. It's the Fannie Mae website, and I will put this in the description just so everyone has a direct link to be able to look at it or review it a little closer. And this is the regulation here, B3-4.1-01 minimum reserve requirements dated 10/7 of 2020. So be sure, depending on when you see this video, that you verify that the information you're looking at is current. And here is what are liquid financial reserves. I'm not going to read it to you. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, if you have any questions, I would get with your lender, or because they're going to have to ask the underwriters just to make sure that is acceptable. And here is where it talks about acceptable sources of reserves that I was referring to earlier. Here you got checking accounts, savings account, investments in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, money market funds, and trust accounts. Then it says the amount vested in a retirement savings account and the cash value of a vested life insurance policy. In my case, when I was acquiring properties, the type of account that I utilized that qualified was my 401k. I had a 401k with my W-2 employer, and then I also had the thrift savings plan, which is a kind of a 401k version in the military. Again, those have to be liquid funds. And what I was required to do to prove that those accounts were considered liquid funds was whoever your 401k manager is, whatever company, go to their website and look for a link that says how to withdraw your funds or how to borrow your funds. And I went to my 401k manager and I was able to download the instructions on how to withdraw the funds. And that's all I had to do. That's what I provided to my lender and to the underwriter, and they accepted that, and everything proceeded from that point forward. So, and here is a list of unacceptable sources of reserves. And it talks about funds that have not been invested, funds that cannot be withdrawn under circumstances other than the account owner's retirement, employment termination, and death, and so forth and so on. All right, well, here is where we talk about the different percentages based on the number of properties that you have. As you can see here, there's a title, Calculation of Reserves for Multiple Finance Properties. 2% of the aggregated UPB, and that means unpaid balance, if the borrower has 1 to 4 properties. 4% of the UPB when it comes to five, between 5 and 6 properties. 6% of the UPB when it comes to 7 to 10 properties. And that is important, like we talked about earlier, when you start calculating that percentage can significantly increase the required reserves. So you need to make sure you have that money set aside. And in my case, I utilize my 401k, I utilize my thrift savings plan, and I didn't do that intentionally, obviously, because I started investing in 401k and thrift savings way before I started investing in real estate. And I'm so glad that I never withdrew that money or borrowed from that money to acquire properties. Sometimes I hear other investors that talk about that, and if that works for them, that's great. I had never have, and I'm glad I did not do that because it's helped me in this situation. It's helped me to show proof that I do have liquid cash reserves to be able to finalize and get that final approval on my loans. And then here, I think this is important to know as well. The aggregated UPB calculation does not include the mortgages and HELOCs that are on the subject property, which is a property you're trying to acquire at that time, and the borrower's principal residence, which is your primary home. So that unpaid balance and the property that you're trying to acquire is not part of that calculation. And then it goes on to say also properties that are sold or pending sale, or accounts that will be paid by closing. All right, I hope that was educational for you. I hope you learned something. If you find this video valuable, please share it, like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, especially share it with those that are on their real estate investing journey. Feel free, if you have any questions, please comment in the comment box. I'll get back to you, or someone will. If I don't know, I'll definitely find out. But I think it's very valuable information to know, because that real estate investing journey, sometimes you have to be creative and try to figure things out. And sometimes lenders, they need you to educate them. I've encountered that as well. I expected the lender to be able to explain it to me. However, because I'd already been through it before with a different lender, I already had that knowledge. I had done that research, and here I was using a different lender, and I had to share that plus the link. And underwriters should know this, but hey, you never know. So the more knowledge you have, and the more that you know where exactly to go and share that resource, you probably will increase your chances in getting that final approval. So again, I hope everyone learned something, and stay safe and happy investing.